connecting. Let's see. You're connecting the plus side to a potentiometer, so your Vy will be constant and locked onto 2.5 volts. That's what that means. Let me just put away some of my things first. A second, I have tools all around. It's not usually where like the tools are supposed to go. I will not stop stream until I finish my projects. Now we make your new ISR function and pass the function to the interrupt register. ISR function had a different return at the end, but the compiler normally handles that part. You just tell it to ISR at the start of the function. I think that's what I have to do. I have to make an ISR function. That's what you mean. Okay. So, the plus side, on the plus side, you have Vx. It's greater than Vy, but Vy is constant, or V minus is constant, it's 0.25 volts. So you're modifying Vx. That's what this is. And if Vx is greater than 2.5 volts, it's going to turn on. Otherwise, the LED will be turned off. Write a assembly code to do that, and use an interrupt to do the same. Okay. Easy enough. We just make a source file. Best part about all this is, isn't Vx always 5 volts? No. Vx is fed into this potentiometer, which will make the voltage variable based on the value of the potentiometer. It's a voltage divider that's being fed into the Vx plus pin, or Vx plus, yes. So when you put this potentiometer here, it divides the voltage. Let's say, if you have it directly in the middle, it'll divide it into 2.5. That's what it is. And on either side, you either have like 0 volts, which will make it Vx 5 volts, or if you have like a very high resistance, it's going to be like close to 0 volts. So I can demonstrate this actually. Let me get a multimeter here. Okay, before we even do anything. Alright, multimeter. I know how potentiometers work. They give me so much stress before. Okay, so if you see, I have the voltage here. I'm going to turn the light on. You can see between the 5 volt and ground pin, you usually have your normal 5 volts, right? And normally what happens is if you have a voltage divider dividing between, let's say, 5 volts and ground, so this is V minus or Vy. The voltage between this pin of the comparator and ground is always going to be 2.5 volts. This is going to be the same no matter what, because this is always going to be two 1 kilo ohm resistors dividing it in half. There's always going to be 2.5 volts going to this comparator, right? Now, I'm going to turn this potentiometer into the middle and measure the resistance between, sorry, not the resistance. I'm going to measure, just kidding, yes, the resistance. This is a 10 k ohm potentiometer, so if I measure the resistance between this pin and ground, what you see is, this is a 2K, about 2,500 ohms of resistance. It should be the same here. So about 2.5K and 2.5K. If I measure between the pin and 5 volts, I get 2.5K resistance, and between the pin and ground, I also get about 2.5K. So this is when the potentiometer is in the center setting, right? So if I turn it to one side, now suddenly the resistance between the 5 volts and the pin is 0 volts, right? It's 0 volts between this pin. And between ground, it's going to be almost... Oh, that's odd. That'd be like 10K. 700. So in that case, you're going to have a 0 ohm resistor connecting the 5 volts to the pin, and from the pin to ground, you have a 700 ohm resistor. And through that logic, you're basically saying, okay, the pin's going to get 5 volts now through that voltage divider, right? Yeah. So in this case, if I try it out with voltage, Siri. Thank you. 4PR3ND1Z for the follow. Yeah. So now if I say, let's measure the voltage between the pin and ground when the potentiometer is in the middle. And so in this case, the voltage between this pin and ground, let's try that again, and ground, this is not voltage, this is resistance. The voltage between this pin and ground is about 2.5. Excuse me. There's no voltage. Why is there no voltage? Something's not being connected properly. We trust you. Canarsie doesn't trust me. Any ground? No. No ground for me. Okay. Okay. It didn't like that. Why is it not... Why am I not getting any voltage between these two pins? Right setting. Okay, I'm getting 2.5 volts there. And almost 5 volts there. Okay, good. Good. Now it's reading the right thing. So between... If the potentiometer is in this setting, that means it's in the lowest setting, right? So it's going to read out 5 volts. If it's the middle, it should theoretically read around 2.5 volts. Yeah, there we go. So it divides it in half by 2.5, and if it's on the other end, we're going to get almost 0 volts in the output. So in this case, you know, the problem statement is if the voltage being sent from the potentiometer and it's being divided across this pin is greater than Vy, which is 2.5 volts, it's going to go ahead and turn the LED on, right? So theoretically, what we need is if the potentiometer is in the low setting, like anywhere between this and the middle, it's going to go ahead and turn on. So because if we look at the reading here, the Vx is currently 5 volts, right? And Vy is currently 2.5 volts. So on the output, we should see we have 5 volts of the output, right? Right? No. Okay. Theoretically, it's 5 volts of the output, which is high. And the high signal is being sent to the interrupt pin up here, right? Now, if we have a low setting, then the voltage between the potentiometer and the ground is around 0 volts, which is Vx. Vy is around 2.5 volts, and our output pin is almost... Oh, come on. Almost 0... What? Okay, it's being a little bit stupid right now, but it should read around 0. Why is it changing? Wait, why is it changing? Two, 2.4. Ooh. Wait, why is it... Do you see this? It shouldn't be changing like this, right? Look at the data sheet. Oh, it's changing. Haha, it's changing because of this LED. Haha. Okay, hold on. And this, friends, is why you don't reuse ports. It's gonna yoink this. Yeah, it's being set by it. Okay, you know what? This is why you don't demonstrate things like when it's not complete yet. I'm gonna put this back in, and you'll see like that the interrupt works with the 7-segment LED in the end too. Demonstration has been flawed. I will go ahead and move this pin and then redo my demonstration of how this thing works. Okay. Someone clip this so that I can use it later. When the potentiometer is in the high setting, the the voltage divider inside will basically divide this into 5 volts because there's going to be 0 ohms of resistance going from the 5 volt to the pin and about 700 ohms of resistance going from the pin to ground. We tested this before. So in this case, we'll have around 5 volts at its output. The voltage divider at Vy is controlled and it will always output 2.5 volts right here. Okay? So always be 2.5 volts because it's a voltage divider of 1 kilo ohm and 1 kilo ohm resistor between 5 volts and ground. So if this is the case, then we basically have Vx is greater than Vy, which means that the output pin will read high. So it's going to go ahead and turn on to 5 volts, right? Now, if we turn the potentiometer to the other setting, if we turn it all the way to the other side, that means now there's going to be 700 volts from the 5 volts to the pin and 0 volts from the pin to ground, which means that that will give you 0 volts from the Vx pin. So we can see here by probe this with a multimeter, we can see 0 volts between the Vx pin and ground. Between the Vy pin and ground, even in this case, we're still going to have a voltage divider of 1 kilo ohm, 1 kilo ohm, which means the voltage gets divided in half, and we get 2.5 volts at the output. So in this case, the output pin will actually read low because the comparator compares the voltage and tells us, oh hey, your Vy is greater than Vx, which means that I'm going to spit you out low, and because you feed this into the interrupt pin, then it'll do some funny stuff with it. Potentiometers 101. And I'm going to save that clip because I'm definitely going to need it later. If you didn't know how potentiometers work, that's how. And a comparator. If you didn't know how comparators work, that's how. And I just stepped in a chunk of chocolate.